The first undeniable signal of replacement is not a single explosive event, but a slow, chilling quiet that settles over the relationship, a profound and sudden withdrawal that begins in the intangible realm of emotion before it crystallizes into physical reality. This is the great withdrawal, and it marks the end of your unique place in her inner world. The woman who once curated a space for you in her mind, who shared the small, unremarkable details of her day and eagerly sought yours, begins to quietly revoke your access. Conversations that used to be a river flowing, meandering, and full of life now feel like a clogged drain. They are functional, transactional, and strained by a weight you can't identify. You find yourself carrying the entire burden of dialogue, asking questions that are met with monosyllabic answers, sharing stories that elicit a polite but distant "that's nice." The shared language you built together, filled with inside jokes and familiar references, falls into disuse. She stops sharing her vulnerabilities, her fears, her excitements. More tellingly, she stops asking about yours. You are no longer her confidant, her sounding board, her sanctuary. In her eyes, you are gradually being demoted to the role of a stranger who is just passing through her life, a guest who has overstayed their welcome. This emotional exit is never contained. It inevitably leaks out, manifesting in the physical language of the body. The warmth that once defined her presence, the casual brush of her hand against yours. The way she would lean into your side on the couch, the instinctual seeking of your closeness in a crowd, all of it begins to vanish. Her touch, if it comes at all, feels perfunctory, like a duty rather than a desire. The light in her eyes when you entered a room, that spark of recognition and delight, is replaced by a flat, polished surface that reflects nothing back at you. You might try to bridge the gap with a hug, only to feel her body remain stiff and unyielding, a statue in your arms. When you sit beside her, she subconsciously angles her body away, creating a silent, powerful barrier. Her physical presence, once a source of comfort and connection, becomes a source of tension and confusion. It feels like an empty shell because the life that animated it, the intimacy, the desire, the affection she once reserved uniquely for you, has been redirected. It is crucial to understand that this attraction and warmth do not simply evaporate into the air. They are transferred. You are witnessing the slow but steady migration of her entire energetic being from you to another. The woman you hold is physically present, but the partner you knew is already gone. Her emotional and physical self having quietly departed for a new destination. If the emotional and physical distance creates the chilling quiet, then the shift in her allocation of time and attention is the deafening alarm bell that confirms it. This is the vanishing act, a systematic rerouting of her most precious resources, her time, her focus, and her communication away from you and toward the new presence in her life. A woman who is invested finds a way. A woman who has replaced you finds excuses. Her availability, once a given, becomes a negotiation. The calls that she once answered with a smile in her voice now ring out into voicemail, often with no callback. The text messages that once sparked rapid-fire conversations now sit for hours, met with delayed minimalist replies that effectively kill the dialogue. "Okay, sure, busy, talk later." Each one is a small dismissal, a subtle declaration that your words no longer warrant her cognitive energy. Making plans, which used to be a collaborative and anticipatory joy, becomes a frustrating exercise in navigating a labyrinth of her new, inexplicable busyness. The weekends that were once reserved for shared adventures are now packed with prior commitments you've never heard of. A simple request for a Tuesday night dinner is met with a heavy sigh and a convoluted explanation about work stress, needing me time, or just being overwhelmingly tired. Yet if you pay attention, you'll notice a stark contradiction. Her social media shows her out with friends. Her energy for her hobbies seems boundless, and her calendar, while closed to you, is clearly open to the world. This is the core truth of her unavailability. It is not random. It is a deliberate redirection. Her time is now a currency, and she is actively choosing to invest it elsewhere. She is not too busy. She is too busy for you. This strategic withdrawal is mirrored with brutal clarity in the degradation of your communication. The tone of your exchanges shifts fundamentally from warm and engaged to cold and transactional. It feels less like connecting and more like settling a minor account. She no longer initiates conversations about your day, your dreams, or your struggles. The "how was your presentation?" or "tell me more about that idea" texts cease entirely. If she does communicate, it is to convey basic, logistical information, as if she's managing a minor business affair rather than nurturing a relationship. The vibrant, colorful tapestry of your shared dialogue is reduced to a grayscale memo. Perhaps the most telling and quietly devastating aspect of this vanishing act is the shift in her language regarding the future. Listen closely to her words. "The collective we that once built a shared world, we should go to that concert next summer. Our place needs a new couch," is systematically replaced by the solitary "I have to see what my plans are. I think I'm going to focus on my career right now." She stops making plans with you altogether. And when she speaks of next month, next year, or even next weekend, you are a ghost in her narrative. Your presence is no longer factored in. This linguistic shift is not a grammatical accident. It is a cognitive and emotional one. She is mentally and then physically erasing you from the story of her life. Her silence about a future that includes you is a scream of confirmation that she is already writing a new chapter, and you are not in it. In an age where lives are lived as much online as they are offline, infidelity and emotional transfer are rarely silent affairs. The digital world becomes a stage. Her behavior on it is a script that tells a story she is not yet ready to confess to your face. This digital betrayal is a trail of breadcrumbs leading to an undeniable truth. Written in the subtle language of algorithms, posts, and online habits, the woman who was once an open book to you, whose social media presence felt like a natural extension of your shared life, suddenly becomes a guarded fortress. She may not post the other man directly in fact. She will likely be more careful than ever to avoid any obvious evidence, but her entire digital pattern will betray her. It begins with a shift in her online persona. She starts posting more curated selfies, often in outfits or settings that feel new and unfamiliar. The captions evolve, leaning into themes of newfound happiness, self-discovery, or living my best life, phrases that feel imported from a context you don't share. This isn't organic growth. It's a performance. Social media becomes her stage to craft and project a new identity for a new, specific audience of one. This performance is protected by a new layer of secrecy. You might notice unexplained unfollows, that are stories which you used to see without a second thought, now vanish when you check, suggesting you've been moved to a restricted list. She may even block you from viewing specific posts, a move that is both calculated and cowardly. When questioned, the explanations are flimsy and defensive. "It was a private thought," or "I didn't think you'd be interested." This is not about privacy. It is about concealment. She is building a wall between her digital life and you, because on the other side of that wall, a different, more compelling conversation is happening. Her phone, once left casually on the table, now never leaves her side, perpetually face down. Notifications are silenced previews, and she angles the screen away from your line of sight with an instinctual jerk. The device is no longer a tool for connection with the world. It has become a sacred portal to a single, separate connection that excludes you. This digital shift is merely the virtual echo of a profound change happening in her real-world routines. The predictable rhythm of her daily life, the times she was usually free to talk, the evenings she preferred to spend at home, her consistent bedtime becomes erratic and unexplained. She starts going to bed later, citing insomnia, but you can hear the faint buzz of a phone in the quiet dark. She has new commitments that pop up during hours that were once reliably yours. Late-night work projects, sudden gym sessions, or spontaneous outings with friends you've never met. Her explanations for these new habits are vague and don't quite add up upon the slightest scrutiny. These are not random changes. They are orchestrated blocks of time, deliberately carved out of her schedule. She is not just being busy. She is engineering a new life structure, and in the architectural plans she is drafting, there is less and less room for you. The gap you feel opening up is not an illusion. It is the precise and calculated space she is creating for someone else to fill. The final and most devastating phase of this unwinding is not marked by drama, but by a profound and chilling silence. This is the shift in engagement, the slow death of shared feeling, where the passionate energy that wants to find your connection, even in its conflicts, is systematically replaced by a void of apathy. When a woman is emotionally invested, she engages. Her anger, her frustration, even her tears are all forms of currency in the economy of your relationship. They prove she still has a stake in the outcome. The most telling sign that you have been replaced, therefore, is not the presence of negative emotion, but the utter absence of any emotion at all directed toward you. She stops reacting. Your presence or absence in a room barely registers on her emotional Richter scale. You might try to provoke a reaction, picking a fight, withdrawing yourself, or making a grand gesture, desperate to spark even a flicker of the old fire. But you are met with a flat, hollow gaze, a polite, disinterested nod, or a simple, infuriating okay. This is not peace. It is emotional abandonment. It is the sound of one hand clapping, the echo of a connection that has already been severed on her end. This descent into apathy often manifests in a paradoxical way as a constant, low-grade irritability directed at your very existence. Where the other man now enjoys the benefit of her warmth and patience, you become the target of her subconscious resentment. The way you chew, the tone of your voice, the questions you ask, the way you breathe in a quiet room, all of it becomes a source of palpable annoyance to her. This is because your presence is an intrusion. It is a constant, living reminder of a reality she is trying to mentally escape, a distraction from the world she is building with someone else. The same behaviors that the new man might exhibit are found charming or endearing because her attraction is the lens through which she views him. For you, there is no such filter. Her irritation is the shadow cast by her disinterest, a constant, passive-aggressive feedback loop, telling you that you are in the way. This complete disengagement is most brutally confirmed by her utter withdrawal from the relationship's problems. In the past, even during the most heated arguments, there was a shared, unspoken goal: resolution. The fights came from a place of passion because she cared enough to want things to be better. But now, the arguments cease entirely. Not because the issues have been solved, but because she has given up. She no longer bothers to voice her complaints because she no longer believes you are worth the effort it would take to fix things. If a conflict does arise, it feels different. It is no longer about finding a solution or being heard. It is about creating distance. She will pick fights over trivialities not to resolve them, but to use them as justification for her own growing detachment. In her mind, these manufactured conflicts become the reasons she can point to, the evidence she uses to convince herself that leaving emotionally or physically is the right choice. Her criticisms in these moments are particularly revealing, as they often mirror the exact areas where the other man seems to provide what she feels is missing. If she claims you never listen, it is because she feels he does. If she says you are not ambitious, it is because she is captivated by his drive. The fight is no longer about you. It is a monologue about a comparison she has already made, a verdict she has already reached in the silent court of her own heart. By the time you reach this stage, the evidence is no longer a collection of isolated clues, but a suffocating atmosphere. You breathe with every moment in her presence. This is the phase of unmistakable proof, where the abstract fears and subtle shifts crystallize into a cold, hard reality that can no longer be rationalized away. It begins in the pit of your stomach, that primal, gut-wrenching instinct that screams something is fundamentally wrong, even when her words are carefully crafted to suggest otherwise. This intuition is your most reliable compass, and it is rarely mistaken. It picks up on the microscopic inconsistencies that your conscious mind tries to argue. Against the half-second delay in her laughter, the way her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes when she looks at you, The palpable sense of relief that washes over her when you walk out the door. You find yourself in a constant state of low-grade anxiety, a detective in your own life, piecing together a case you desperately wish you were wrong about. This internal alarm is triggered by a series of specific, telling behaviors. You may notice she begins to make casual, seemingly offhand comparisons. She might mention how a coworker is so thoughtfully planning a vacation, or how her friend's boyfriend is so ambitious with his career goals. On the surface, these are harmless observations. Underneath, they are daggers. These comparisons are never random. They are a curated commentary on what she has decided you lack. And they simultaneously serve as a subtle hint that another man is already filling that void. It is her subconscious way of justifying her own emotional departure, building a case in her mind for why her shift in loyalty is not only understandable, but deserved. Alongside this, you might witness strange flashes of unprovoked guilt. She may suddenly become overly nice, offering you a small gift, or doing a favor out of the blue. These gestures feel forced and hollow because they are not acts of love. They are acts of appeasement, a desperate attempt to cover her tracks and soothe her own conscience. When you ask a simple, innocent question like, "Who were you with last night?" she reacts with a disproportionate defensiveness, her tone sharp and her explanations convoluted. This is the sound of a nerve being struck, a door being slammed shut on a room you are no longer permitted to enter. The final, and most brutal, confirmation lies not in what she does, but in what she fails to do. She stops caring about your silence. In a healthy relationship, a partner's withdrawal prompts concern, a reaching out, a desire to bridge the gap. It triggers a fear of loss. But when you pull back now, stopping your texts, giving her the space she claims to want, there is no panic, no inquiry, no attempt to reconnect. In fact, she welcomes it. Your silence is not a threat to her world. It is a convenience. It provides her with the uninterrupted time and mental freedom to fully invest in the other man without the nagging guilt of your presence. She can go days without checking in, without wondering where you are or if you're okay. Because in the landscape of her new life, your absence is not a void. It is a pre-filled space. The ultimate, undeniable truth is reflected in her eyes. The human gaze is the one thing that cannot consistently lie. You can listen to her say she's fine. You can hear her list a dozen logical reasons for her distance, but her eyes will betray the entire performance. When she looks at you, there is a hollow emptiness, a lack of the spark that once ignited in your presence. The warmth, the intimacy, the shared secret language of a glance, it is all gone. And if you are observant, you will catch the moments when that light returns, when her phone buzzes with a specific tone, when she's lost in thought and a faint smile plays on her lips. In those unguarded instants, you are witnessing the reflection of the man who has taken your place. He is not a future possibility. He is her present reality. By the time you have connected all these points, the conclusion is inescapable. The replacement is not something that is going to happen. It is something that has already been completed. The woman you are trying to hold on to no longer exists in the context of your relationship. She has already migrated her loyalty, her passion, and her future to someone else, leaving you alone with the ghost of what used to be. Tasked with the painful but liberating duty of finally accepting that the person you are mourning has already left.